Hi, thank you,
Hi.
DeSimone, for coming to chat with us today. My name is Allison Camardella. I am the president of the North Shore Coalition Against Substance Abuse. And we have reached out to Kay, who's a licensed clinical social worker, and she is with Pura Vida Wellness Centers in Garden City. And we asked you to come speak to us today about parenting during this time of shelter in place. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And you guys do an amazing job with all of your schools, creating opportunities when we were able to be in person. And I really commend you for just stretching yourself and honing your skills and just jumping out there to continue to support parents in a way that is an online platform and an online support.
Thank you very much. So my first question to you was, in your work, I was curious, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're finding parents coming to you with during this time of homeschooling and sheltering in place, and what seems to be some of the themes that are arising with parents?
So a lot of the things that are coming up with parents and with children, I primarily work with teenagers and young adults, usually high achievers that are in high achieving school districts or very competitive school settings. A lot of the issues that are happening because the children miss their friends. And as much as we are so cool, we think with parents, they really, really thrive on a system that has a structure, that has other adults in their lives that can provide support throughout the day, that provides feedback where they can bounce up ideas off of them. And then because we're in shelter in place, now we are forced to be each other's backup. So being away from their friends, being away from their teachers and tutoring and a lot of the support that we had already set up for them to have an appropriate structure is something that could be very taxing both for the kids and for the parents, because at this time you are the one all be all for your children, for their physical needs, for their emotional needs, for the needs to touch, for the needs of hugs, for the needs of giving some space. It has become where we are each other's backup every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
So,
so, go ahead, please.
and so some of the things that come up very frequently are for also students that are very used to having taking APs, being varsity in sports, trying out for sports. So a lot of the stuff that we do is a lot of preparation beforehand in order to be able to pursue certain goals and certain dreams that are even milestones for our children.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're having a delay and there's all this unknown quality to when are things going to go back to normal, what is normal going to look like.
So, what is your best advice to parents who are struggling to support their children academically and keep them on track for success, but also to support their mental health and well-being during this time? Where is that? Is there a perfect balance there somewhere?
Well, perfection is so elusive and will never be found. But I think as a family and as individuals, we have to strive right now almost to a level of what is good enough. And we have to strive for getting things done and knowing that when things get done, they don't necessarily are going to be perfect at this time because we don't have all of the other supports that we had. We don't have all the other strategies or the tools. They're just not here, or they are here in our lives in a very different capacity. Our teachers, our advisors, our therapists, our supporters are in our lives in a very different capacity. So it's almost having to go back to when our children were smaller and just having those conversations. As soon I have, I'll share with you, we have older children. We have 3 college children and one that's in 6th grade. And as soon as the whole situation was happening, we started having meetings at home just to have very, very open conversations about what was non-negotiable, what were they struggling with. We created, to the best of our abilities, a structure and a schedule for all of us so that we know what we're expecting from each other. We created a space where you can complain and you can whine and you can cry, and it's a structure within the day. So everybody knows that within this particular time frame, let's say after dinner, we can have conversations and we go around like, what was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of your day? As
Mm-hmm.
the older girls were coming up with their college finals and all of their papers, we would have those questions on the table and be like, what do you need from us this week? And if you have many children or many adults working at the same time, we have to prioritize what are the things that are really, really important that week, whether you have a conference call with your boss, whether you have a pitch for a new account, whether your daughter is interviewing for a virtual type of scholarship or a virtual internship, because a lot of the internships now shifted and some of the kids are still out there trying to figure those out, but it's trying to be forgiving and having those conversations as a group. I also advise a lot of my parents to try to have one-on-one conversations with the children because there's always different triangulations and issues between one child and the other, and this one is the favorite, and you gave her the biggest piece of avocado. Like, as you're in quarantine, small little things could become a very big deal. So
Yes.
it's very important that we try to figure out what is important to you, what are you struggling with. Something else that I have advised other parents and my own personal friends is really monitor your children throughout this and make sure that you're also sharing the things that are not working out for you, right? As parents, we try to be know-it-all, be-all, and everything is perfect because we don't want to worry the kids, but actually they're not knowing what is happening. That's what worries the kids because they're trying to read the room and they know you're not okay. And they pick up on the little cues about you and your family members and the adults to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So they're able to perceive that we had planned to Aruba in December might not be happening because mom or dad or grandma, if you're living in a multi-generational family, had to take a pay cut. And these are things that we have to be able to discuss. Our children are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for, but they are able to sense when we are off, but not having the conversations, not even sharing our own disappointment. In my case, this spring was going to be a fabulous spring. I had so many speaking engagements that I had worked so hard to be able to schedule. I was going to present for the hospital that trained me. That was a very big deal for me. And I had my presentation and my slides. All of that got canceled. And even me sharing my disappointment and sadness about it with my children is modeling the appropriate way to communicate, also to communicate resilience and to allow them to be in a place of power where they're able to comfort me, right? We don't give our kids enough flexibility in their emotional muscles for them to be the caretakers, for them to be courageous enough to come up with their own ideas and share them as something that maybe the family as a whole can follow. So staying away from the level of perfection, staying away from any level of hiding and being secretive of certain things because the kids really know what's going on.
Yeah.
You have concerns about the virus yourself and you feel that you're feeling really hypervigilant, you can discuss those things and see. And because if you're able to discuss those things, your children are able to understand why you're making all these rules. And we are in a tandem of people that are all the way here where they're like, nobody comes to my house, don't touch my garbage bag and don't touch my driveway, to people that are comfortable with taking walks and people that are comfortable, their kids seeing their friends. Realistically, that's what is happening. And then you have to create a circle within your house where there's an understanding of what rules work for you.
Yeah.
So everybody is able to follow them, and then they can also give their feedback.
So, yeah, I mean, what is so thematic in so much of the work that we present through CASA is communication, 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 and that's really coming through. And I love the idea of giving them the opportunity to let you know what they need as opposed to you telling them what they need, creating that space where you can say, hey, what do you need from me this week to help you? I love that advice. And modeling emotional honesty yourself. Those are all great.
Also you can create within your own family based on what resources you have. You can have a soothing list of activities where, there's the mindfulness. There's a number of apps that are being offered for free in order to do mindfulness, to do meditation, to work at home. There are so many classes that are being provided for free, both for small children. There's a lot of the Ivy League schools are offering hundreds of classes for free also. So that is something. Also, their summer is coming, and a lot of the children are very high achieving, or that maybe needed some work they had to do and patch up. They're getting very anxious because it's like, oh, this is the summer where I was going to do this thing that by the time I got to 7th grade was going to put me at this level. I was going to be on the level with everybody else, or I was going to pick up this credit, or I was going to improve my skill in this particular sport because I want to try out for cheerleading or lacrosse or whatever sport they were going for. And then even for small goals and small dreams like that, it's important that we have a game plan, right? I am not proponent of this is the time when we're going to turn it around and we're going to learn how to do a sculpture and we're going to do, get six-pack abs and all of that. I am more of a proponent of you have to have a checklist that says what is important to you right now. So you're going to drink more water, and then you have a small moderate goal for it. If I work out 20 minutes every day, that's a great thing. And workout could be some days working out in one of my old DVD videos that I found because my gym is closed, or doing something on YouTube. It feels just too violent on my body because I have done so many things, so many chores, I've seen so many patients, I haven't been outside. So then I'll be like, okay, so today's threshold is going to be met with a 20-minute video for yoga on YouTube, and that's going to have to be good enough. Or it's going to be, we're going to go after dinner around the block, or I'm going to do 2 push-ups and 1 sit-up, and that's going to check that box.
So for these teens, setting small, realistic goals that can make them feel like they're still moving in a positive direction, even though not all the resources and opportunities are there, can be helpful. And then I'm hearing also looking outside for other resources, as you said, that are online and that can help them further where their direction towards a goal.
Correct. And one also the things, if there are particular things they're still interested in pursuing, now is the time when you can do research. A lot of the staff members and admission counselors, they're working from home. And now is a good time, if you have that free time, to start sending emails to admissions people in the colleges that you're interested on and say, my name is so-and-so, I go to this particular school in Long Island, I'm going to be applying next year. If there are any type of materials or anything that you can send me, that'll help me further my interest in the school, or so that they can start hearing from you. Is there any of the, there's Coursera, there's all these free things that are out there. This could be a good time for juniors and sophomores to start thinking, what do I really want to study, right? Opposed to waiting until a year from now where you have to crank it out and say, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. Okay, I'm going to go to business. Like, let's look into things like, what is the career? What are the schools? How many hours do I have to work? When we're trying to break down what our goals and our dreams are, I think for children and young adults, it's very helpful to say, okay, I don't know what I want to be. So I start with them with, what don't you want to be? I start with them visualizing, do you see yourself wearing a suit? Do you see yourself wearing a hoodie and t-shirts and sneakers? Like, are you commuting to the city in the Long Island Railroad? Are you driving in? Are you working from home? Do you see your job where you have to travel? Do you want to deal with people or not? Are you okay with working on the holidays? And that is going to start narrowing what are the jobs, what are the careers, or the things that could interest them. And then when we find that out, we can see, what are the jobs? What does this job look like? Who do I know, even within my parents' circle, that could have a few minutes just for me to talk to them, so that we feel like we're still moving towards the goal. With the younger children, I advise the parents, it's really hard to keep a structure, to keep a schedule. My own 12-year-old, I think she was in TikTok 10 hours during the first week.
We can all relate to that, yes.
When I don't know how to do it, but somebody that's second in the house was able to see.
Give it another few weeks, you'll learn.
I have no interest. There's many people here that can do that. I was flabbergasted. She was on her phone, on her laptop, almost for 10 hours, because we were all trying to decompress and try to figure out like what comes next. But as the weeks moved on, we were able to figure out a schedule where it made more sense. Some people at this point can sign up their kids. My little one is signed up for canacademy.org, and I had her starting in kindergarten. She's in 6th grade. So she has a couple of hours a day where she does her schoolwork.
What is that resource?
Canacademy.org. And they have all the grades for school, and they have ELA, they have math, and it's a computer generated program, and it teaches them, it shows them videos, and they take tests, and it gives them prizes, and it gives them badges, and you're able to monitor from your own computer to see how many minutes did they actually spend on it. And it's a great way, because then you're patching up things so they still feel like they're learning and they're preparing. It is very important also to demonstrate appropriate self-care for your kids. Right? I for the first week and a half, I would say I was in different sets of pajamas for the first 2 weeks. So you can do your Zoom and then just see your face. And then I started, I was kind with myself at that point, because there was so much changing. There was so much stuff that had to be figured out. And eventually, you get a little outfit on, maybe a pair of earrings, if you want to be really crazy that day. models for them appropriate self-care, and also it kind of breaks down the day, right? Even when you don't have the best day, being able to share that, being able to ask them for advice. Also, it's very important to monitor our children's and ourselves, how our emotions are going, what is our level of functioning. A lot of people are very blessed to have insurance, and with this insurance, you're able to secure a therapist or a counselor to speak with your child, with yourself. And I always see like people think about like, oh, but what are we going to talk about? I don't have any problems, or I have too many problems. Like I don't want to overwhelm myself or the provider. But realistically, when you're talking with a therapist or a counselor, you or your child can just talk about anything. Anything is a stressor. I haven't dyed my hair. I haven't been able to take my kids to the orthodontist. I have to cook all the time. They're eating all my food. And when it has to do with your children, when they are at home just with the adults in their lives, it's very hard because they have their own feelings and they might not feel, you know, good enough about telling you how they're struggling. There's a lot going on with the high school seniors. There's a lot going on with the college kids that were, removed from the buildings, they're removed from the campus, like so drastically, so quickly. Half of the stuff they don't know where it is. They have a lot of big feelings. Our seniors that are lined up to graduate from college and don't have so offers have been rescinded, or even the juniors that had internships and they were counting on these jobs to be the job they were going to have at the end. They have a lot of big feelings. They have a lot of emotions that they're processing by themselves because their friends are not there, their advisors are not there. And yes, you're there and they're processing that with you, but there are many things that they might not be able to tell you because they don't want to worry you anymore. So I always advise people go on Psychology Today, see what kind of providers you can find with your insurance. Most providers give you a 15-minute consultation. Talking to somebody and having a counselor doesn't make you have a psychiatric condition. It doesn't become the same. You don't have to be with a therapist or a counselor for life. Mm-hmm. Therapy, in some cases, it has to be a support that is a lifetime for people. But most people are going through transitions or are going through a special needs and moments that you can have somebody that is a sounding board for you.
No, I think that's great advice, especially for parents of teens who, during this time, it's very natural for the teen to try and break away. And here they are just stuck at home without all of the external outlets to share or to complain about their parents or the rules or all of those things. So, having an outside resource could be really helpful.
And the schools are doing a fantastic job. A lot of the schools in Long Island are doing a fantastic job with their counseling centers. You're able to call and talk to your counselor. And then you can have an additional adult in the life of your child which they have confidentiality with, so they will be able to share certain things that they're not willing to share with you. And then you'll have a sounding board of an adult opposed to their friends that they're texting and asking for advice. Right? As we're entering into the pandemic and then we are still here, one of the most important things is that when we get out of the pandemic, we have to figure out very stressed about. We're not moving forward. I'm going
to interrupt you for a second. You just froze when you were about to say the most important thing. So just go back. What is the most important thing?
So the most important thing is to make sure that we are able to come out of the pandemic and all the aftermath that's going to bring, and that our children are emotionally sound and they have been appropriately supported, and that we have done that job for ourselves too. So the credits we can recoup. The stock market eventually will go up. We will just have to figure out if we have to get another job on the side, that's what we will do. But our emotional ability to manage the situation, to feel that we have support, that somebody's listening, that we're together, is the thing that is going to help your children be resilient and be able to use these lessons that we've learned now and be able to actually apply them in the future.
That's a wonderful message, and thank you for that, and thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know that our members and the North Shore community will get a lot of value out of hearing your thoughts and advice. So thank you.
And then I'll compile a small list of just resources in general, with apps and different with free resources for parents and kids, and then you can publish it or you can.
Wonderful. Okay. Even better. Thank you. Once again,
nice to see you.
DeSimone of the Pura Vida Wellness Center in Garden City. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, be well. Bye-bye.